Castlevania Curse of Darkness, my Dark Souls before Dark Souls. I can't recommend this game enough, and understand the issues that people do have with it, and I'm going to get into those concerns and a lot of criticisms that are very valid. So I made a post discussing my little revisit to Castlevania Curse of Darkness. And so I'm basically going to read off each paragraph and just kind of I might go off just to express further opinions because I posted this on June 16th. It is now June 18th of this recording, and I've accomplished something I was talking about at the very end of the post, and which was analyzing the crazy armor boss in terms of restrictions, no dodging, no damage, no summons. And so I will get into that into more detail at the very end, because at the very end I talk about, hopefully I get this done and uploaded, and that's already been done. I'll link the boss video in the description. So let's go ahead and get this started. This is I'm pretty sure this isn't going to be 10 minutes long, so that is becoming a very difficult time. Excuse me. Time duration to get to explain everything I want. Because basically everything's just more condensed and less detailed. So I might have to aim for a more 15 or 20 minute sort of format. Unfortunately, I mean, as much as I would love to have like quick little 10-minute videos, I can't express enough. So anyway, the first paragraph of this post. As a kid, this game was absolutely brutal. I used summons, I desperately healed, I panic dodged, and I used whatever I could to defeat bosses by any means possible. Of course, these days, especially as of late, I've been approaching combat in a more technical manner, seeing how much I can get away with mechanically while also having fun. So getting back into this childhood video game was definitely going to be interesting, seeing what I personally found difficult with my current standards of playstyle. So this has definitely been a very interesting path for me as of late, because going back to other games, I can't just simply play like I used to. I just don't find it interesting, which is why I don't really I played God of War 2, and the game was absolutely just significantly more interesting when I applied difficulty restrictions. No touching chests, no upgrading health or anything like that. I think I think I still use magic, because I think God of War is really one of the few exceptions where I love using magic. I don't often like magic in video games. I don't really care for it in Final Fantasy 16, but maybe something will change my mind later on. I didn't use it at all in the demo. I might have used it maybe a couple times at the very beginning, but I stopped. So anyway, just having to go back and analyze things differently, I'm finding new things about the old games I enjoyed, and I plan on doing that for others, like Tony Hawk Underground. Maybe, I don't know, maybe not Kingdom Hearts. I think that game's probably been overanalyzed at this point. Plus, I don't really care for the combat that much. And I'm trying to reference maybe Driver. Actually, I have Driver here, so I was thinking about maybe perhaps looking into that. That's definitely a game that that needs an upgrade desperately. I would love to see Driver come back. Driver definitely offers something that I feel the Grand Theft Auto series doesn't, because Grand Theft Auto is kind of in that dilution sort of formula right now, and I really hope Grand Theft Auto 6 is great, but after Grand Theft Auto 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2, I don't really have a whole lot of hope. I know that's not a very popular opinion, but I don't really care about how they make their games anymore. I miss San Andreas, I miss Grand Theft Auto 4, I miss that style. So carrying on with the second paragraph. First, I need to explain that the level design in Castlevania Curse of Darkness is absolutely atrocious, with unnecessarily long paths and no enemies. It was a criticism that I even agreed with back in 2005. Now, this sounds like a major contradiction, because I dislike Hollow Knight, Blasphemous, Breath of the Wild, Nioh, God of War, Ragnarok, mainly for having bland generic platforming. I posted this on Reddit, and some guy said, I understand those other examples, but why'd you bring up Nioh? There's like no platforming. And I'm like, dude, what the heck are you talking about? You fall off, you can fall off ledges. I know there's no jump button in it, but however, you can still fall off ledges, climb up ladders. To me, that's platforming. You can go on top of rooftops and drop off, and I don't really understand. Like, just because there's no jump button, there's no jumping capabilities doesn't mean you can't have platforming sections. That just, I don't know. It's I guess the guy likes Neo, and so he was like, that doesn't make any sense to me. So I got to say, I don't know why I got into an accent there, but anyway, I just think that's a strange criticism because I was complaining about God of War Ragnarok having terrible puzzles, and then someone said, "Well, it's not a puzzle game." I'm like, "But there are puzzles in it." I mean, why? I mean, it, it doesn't. It's like whenever I go to a restaurant and it's like I go to a seafood restaurant and order a cheeseburger. I'm like, "Ah, man, this cheeseburger sucks." And someone says, "Well, it's a seafood restaurant." I'm like, "Yeah, but why have the burger then? Why have it as an option? If you're gonna have a crappy burger, take it off the menu. It doesn't make any sense to me." So that it's just people have really strange ways of trying to back up things that they like. I don't know. It's just, what are your thoughts on that? So I asked myself a question in this post. So why does Castlevania Curse of Darkness work for me? It could be nostalgia, or it's where I developed that standard in general. And so this is just relating to the bland generic platforming of why I don't like Hollow Knight, Breath of the Wild, God of War, Ragnarok, and etc. And so there's something I'm still thinking about, something I'm still tossing in the back of my mind on why Castlevania Curse of Darkness works for me in terms of platforming and walking around. And, I think it's the music. The music is absolutely spectacular. Some of the best. I mean, I think Castlevania Curse of Darkness even beats the From Software games in terms of soundtrack. Shadow of the Colossus is still on top, but Castlevania Curse of Darkness is probably third because you got Castlevania Symphony of the Night that's also really, really good. So probably just the music is just makes it everything. Maybe I need to start playing. Maybe that's actually probably the cure. That's probably my solution. Is maybe I just need to listen to music while I'm playing these games that I hate the soundtrack to. Maybe I need to play like a whole Pink Floyd or Motley Crue, because I had to listen to Motley Crue to get into Sekiro, but that wasn't because of level design. It was just because I was trying to find a deflection rhythm. Anyway, moving on. My first objective was to test the spacing of enemies with no dodging. How generous is this aspect? Well, it actually works very similar to Dark Souls, surprisingly, except the enemies are significantly less aggressive. However, this works extremely well in large crowds, which isn't viable in Dark Souls, unless you bottleneck, spin to win, summon, or use powerful magic. And so, let's see. Apparently, crazy mode, I never played around with crazy mode a whole lot even back then, so apparently the AI is actually improved, which is very interesting. However, they become extremely tanky from what I've seen from gameplay footage. So it doesn't really seem that worth it because you already have to perform the same attacks over and over again. It just makes it very tedious. I don't know if just having the AI slightly more aggressive is going to be worth it. I don't know. I don't really want to speak too much on that because I don't want to. Yeah, I don't know too much about it. I would have to try it out myself and just see how much of a difference there is, because I'm not going to be able to find the very specific thing that I'm looking for through playthroughs. So maybe if I ever get around to finishing the game, I'll play it on crazy mode and find out if the crazy armor is any different from when I defeated him with the restrictions from just normal play. Next paragraph. I like how the dog type enemies in this game gave me flashbacks to Dark Souls or any From Software game because of their annoying nature. However, they're very mild and slow. Now, they are annoying enemies. There are annoying enemies in Castlevania Curse of Darkness, such as the skeleton blades, so it somewhat evens out. And I don't really have a whole lot to add to this. The skeleton blades, I definitely remember. That was just one thing I really remember the most of all in my early days of playing Curse of Darkness, because there was a very particular material that had an extreme rare drop for a weapon combination. And I remember spending hours, days, and it finally dropped one day. And these enemies, oh my goodness, they'll do this backflip that just knocks you in the air, and it's just really annoying. And this is like late game, I believe, from what I remember. And getting that material, I love when farming's done really well, it is really fun, and that's what I really like about the From Software games, because I like using weapons that I farm for. And so whenever I finally get that drop that's rare, I'm like, ah, yes, very small amount of people have this weapon. And I like that thrill of just knowing that not many people are going to have that weapon. I understand, a good fair amount of people do, but it's like the rib break from Elden Ring. That drop was so rare. I spent probably a few days farming for it, and I finally got it. And I actually went ahead and got a second one just to make the playstyle more unique for me. So anyway, moving on. Saving, one of my biggest gripes because it takes at least a few minutes to do manually. Oh wait, sorry. Saving, yes, sorry, the idea of saving. Yes, sorry. Just going into a room and saving your progress is one of my biggest gripes because it takes at least a few minutes to do manually, and I'm playing on the PS2 system, so I don't have save slots like on an emulator. I always like how a symbol Oh yes, I always like how a symbol with an arrow shows up, uh, indicating that you're passing by a save room. That still holds up as a nice touch and also feels organic to the world. So this is definitely a problem, especially it's actually after I was thinking about it, it's not that actually that big of a deal. So I got to let myself die, which is the biggest problem. So it does take more time. So if I get hit, I got to let the boss, which is slow, kill me so I can go back to the main menu, reload, and then try again. Unfortunately, not, it's so strange how not a whole lot of games have a retry or start at the last checkpoint feature. Tony Hawk, I think the best example I've ever seen was Tony Hawk's Underground. They had a really nice restart menu. I think they had several options. Restart, I believe it was retry the mission or end the mission, something like that. But it was. I remember it being really nice because it was just me constantly having to. I think the developers understood that possibly people just really wanted to refine how they were going to approach the contest because that was the thing. Because if you screwed up, then you would have there was really no chance sometimes unless you just nailed a really good combo because the contest doesn't end until you land that trick. However, they definitely thought ahead. I don't know how that works for the. I haven't played Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 or 4, which I'm actually currently out looking for locally for PS2 so I can finally play those games because apparently those games are absolutely fantastic. They are missing mechanics, but that's not a big deal for me personally. So the next paragraph I have. Now we get to the first boss called Crazy Armor. This boss has 4 health bars and 2 stages. The arena is square, and that's it. I would say that overall, dang it, I'm sorry. I keep on wanting to say Call of Duty because it says COD because I have it, just to reduce typing time. It says CCOD, and I keep wanting to say Call of Duty. So overall, Curse of Darkness, the arena design in Curse of Darkness is almost matching quality with the boss arena designs in Elden Ring because Elden Ring has just I don't know, it's just the arena designs are absolutely terrible. I can't hardly remember any of them. They're just really bland. They don't complement attacks most of the time. I remember just the boss and then that's it. It's not like with Dark Souls where I can remember the arena with the centipede demon or anything like that. And it's just unfortunately just kind of bland, rather bland for the most part. Let's see where I'm at. I'm trying to. Oh yeah, just bland with a few outstanding exceptions. The fight is, of course, simple in terms of attacks, with the first stage containing a variation of attacks which are used in pattern variations, and one rare attack, actually a couple rare attacks, that doesn't seem to have a specific trigger. The second stage is extremely underwhelming, with only 2 attacks after the metamorphosis that includes 2 fireball projectiles, and 2 fire sprays. So after analyzing this fight further, I realized there was actually more attacks in the first phase. It was strange how they made the first fight so so complex in comparison of the second phase. I don't know why they didn't even add additional strikes with the weapon you had. It was just I don't know. It's a very strange design choice. I wonder. I mean, this is one of the few bosses that actually has a second phase, and I'm just wondering why they even bothered. I guess they had an idea and they just wanted to go through with it. So moving on, applying restrictions to this boss makes it significantly more interesting, especially the no dodging aspect, which effectively works up close and strafing to its right side. This avoids every single attack as long as you keep yourself there. Now that wasn't. Oh, sorry, hit the mic. Now that was actually rather complicated. It sounds a lot more is a lot more complicated than I made it sound there, because you got to make sure that the camera angle is just right, or you're gonna is pers- your perspective is not going to be exactly precise enough to always avoid it. But I'll get to that here in a moment. I have found that attacking after the end of a combo or the large sweep is basically the best opportunities. Are basically the best opportunities. There is one telegraph that the player's attack recovery animation isn't fast enough for and is very specific. This was just referring to whenever the you had to be very careful about when you attack, because some attacks follow up with a slam, a vertical slam attack, and if you attack to punish one attack, you'll get punished by that attack because you can't recover fast enough, basically. And so now we're at the point where I'm going to explain the crazy armor as of now, as what I've experienced after finishing it and analyzing the attacks. Let me pull up footage from. Actually, I think I already defeated. I think I already deleted the raw footage. So let me pull up. I should already had this pulled up. My computer's slow. I need to build a new computer. All right, let me make sure that here we go. So the fight starts with a very awkward angle, and I also did this fight without the target lock, and the game automatically target locks you. So I had to immediately run to the side to it's either left or right, it doesn't really matter. And so I'm in the final video, I'm just kind of standing around, just waiting for the attacks I'm comfortable about seeing, because after a while I stopped getting comfortable about attacking or trying to punish every single thing, because it just wasn't working out. The failure rate was just way too high. And so basically, after he has slam attacks, vertical slam attacks for each side. And so his right hand vertical slam attack actually occurs less often than his left attack. His left attack is more as a response to just using in combos. His right attack is just more like a one and done sort of deal. Not the rarest attack, but I think it only occurred twice. So maybe it is technically the rarest attack, because the one I am referring to in terms of the rarity is the one where he throws his head into the ground. Now, I mentioned that in my post that it didn't seem to have specific triggers, but it seemed to only happen in the Sega phase. I don't know. It seemed to be very inconsistent. However, if you're standing kind of like just a certain distance away from him, he just seems to start doing it, because if you stand there and avoid it instead of going up to him to attack, he'll actually do it constantly. He will actually never stop doing it until you actually move or try to punish him for it. And so, thankfully, he actually did it quite a few times, because it's an attack that actually allows a lot of punish window, a large punish window. Really, the thing that I had to refine myself at the most was just basically punishing more attacks, because of course I could just stand away and just walk back and hit maybe once and walk away, but that's interesting enough. Yeah, I mean, what I have in the final footage was just good enough for me to commit to the strategy and continue. So of course he has cancellations, combo cancellations. He either attacks once, stops, attacks twice, then stops. So you kind of have to adapt accordingly. Really, the worst thing about it was the camera. Of course, I wasn't target locking, so that added a lot of challenge to this, which is why, of course, I did it. But it was viable, so I never stopped trying. And so if anyone wanted to try this challenge, I definitely recommend target locking just to keep track, because finding the camera, I mean, after you get used to it, it's not that bad actually. So it really depends. It's not that big of a deal. It's just a little extra challenge I threw in there. So it was just more of like, because the camera hangs up. It's not like it's just a freedom spin, and it doesn't have that convenience of disabling the what's it called? Like Dark Souls has a function where you can actually prevent the camera from knocking into models in the world. Like when you go to Anne Orlando, about right before the beams, you disable the what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my goodness, I can't think of it. I know it's right there in the back of my tongue. colliding, I guess. Collision. Yeah, collision. Camera collision. You can disable it. And unfortunately, it doesn't appear to be in this game. I tried looking. Maybe I didn't look hard enough, but there's not a whole lot of settings in. There wasn't a whole lot of settings back in the day, at least from what I've seen. And so, actually, interesting thing I found out about dodging. Did I totally miss that part about dodging? Let's see. I thought Did I totally miss this part? Okay, maybe I did say it. Okay, but going back to dodging, I just wanted to mention real quick because I think I definitely forgot to talk about it. Is that funny enough, you can actually disable dodging. Now, certain abilities are actually floating in the world that you can collect. So once you collect them, you actually have the options to disable them. And so that kind of tells me that this game was actually. I don't know. I haven't played through the entire game without dodging yet. I don't know if there's one attack that just totally compromise it. So the fact that you can disable dodging, quick step, whatever, kind of tells me that developers they actually designed this game to where you don't have to use those aspects. However, I could be wrong. I just find it very suspicious that they would actually give you the option to disable it. That's just very strange to me. Why remove something that why remove a apparently important mechanic in the game? So I'll just have to find out as I play through to see how well that holds up. Because of course you can always just tank damage, and that way you don't have to dodge also. But so my question is, how well does this game work without dodging and without taking damage, and also no summons? Just because you can disable summons also. So that's definitely something I want to look at further into. So I think I've covered the first phase. I don't think there's anything else really important I wanted to address about that. Just fighting the camera, getting used to spinning it around with no target lock, and figuring out what are the best punish windows, and when to be cautious and when to not be cautious. I mean, all right. So the second phase, there's really nothing else to say. The fireballs, nothing worked for punishing them because you could attack after they land, and then while you're recovering, you could get hit by another wave of fireballs. So in the end, I just decided to avoid them entirely. I really hated to. I wanted to punish that attack. There just seemed to be no viability. Maybe there was, and I just didn't find it. So I mean, I already worked so hard on the first phase, and I really just didn't care about the second phase because it was just two attacks. The fire spray, I mean, it's basically the same. Once it starts, you gotta just walk away from it, then come back. That was the only time I could actually punish the boss, was after he got finished with the fire spray, and also the beginning of the fire spray, and that's it. Very satisfying. I'm glad I got it. I mean, I got annoyed. I had to take breaks. It took me probably about a week to get, really, just in combination of attempts, and it was very satisfying. And I can't wait to try the other boss fights with it. The next one is it's a dragon, I believe, a dragon type boss. I do remember it. It's the one where you get to jump on top and attack its head. Another thing I was also thinking about adding to the challenges was actually stealing, but that wouldn't really hold up very well because with the death boss fight, you have to use magic and stuff in order to steal. So it wouldn't really match up very well. So I'm just going to totally avoid the whole stealing aspect of these challenges. It will just add an unnecessary annoyance and roadblock for trying to develop a strategy that works. And so if someone wants to go out there and do it, then have at it. I have no interest in it. So if you want to go out there, do the exact same thing I did, but also steal items, I would love to see it. That would be absolutely fascinating. Definitely destroy my well, not destroy it, but also just improve on what I've done, because I would love to see it. That's the kind of community I want to create. I want to see people improve on what's been established, and I'm so glad to see how viable certain restrictions are so far in Curse of Darkness. So that's basically all I wanted to say. I don't know how long this video ended up being because I was really passionate about this project. Final Fantasy 16 definitely brought back nostalgic vibes from their boss designs for me to go back and eventually just play Castlevania Curse of Darkness. And I'm so glad I can play it on the PS2, record it and everything, and publish it, and just have a great time with it. Talk to Castlevania fans if I can, if they're interested in talking to me. I don't really know what Castlevania fans are into these days. So, just wrapping up. I hope someone found this interesting, and hope everybody has a great day. And talk to you later.